Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Well, I'm going to do something a little different. Usually I do a bunch of encounters, but today I've got one encounter to share with you. And I reached out to this individual and said, listen, I know you're looking for answers. I said, I have got a pretty good idea of what I think is going on. But I've got about 4,000 subscribers who have a pretty good head on their shoulders and might be able to give you some insight on what's going on. And they said, absolutely, please share my story. And I said, thank you. And they subscribed, so now this is a subscriber Strange Occurrences in the Woods story. Now before we get into this encounter, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fan fiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that don't fit on this channel. Now, if you're into that kind of stuff, pop over there and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. And with that, guys, let's get on with this encounter. Shall we? This story comes to me from a subscriber and a Redditor named cameroniodilbert. There will be pictures and links to this subscriber's Reddit page as well in the links below. I live in Illinois, and I've posted about other haunted locations before, such as Bachelor Grove Cemetery, and one of my friends and I were discussing an experience we had in the woods, and we're looking for some answers. The first event happened in late August of 2016 while we were running late one night. We both ran cross-country and track in high school and still do to this day. My friend worked a job that wouldn't get out sometimes until 10 or 11 at night, so we would typically go running very late at night. This had been happening for a couple of years at that point, so we knew our path very well. On the local running path, down 2.5 blocks into the woods that butts up against a large creek. At some points on the path in the woods, you can see houses and a park. But other times it starts to get a bit more secluded. We aren't talking like the wilderness here, though. There is wildlife in the area, mostly raccoons, skunks, too many close calls there, and random beaver and an occasional deer. Over the years, we have seen more and more coyotes around the streets, but never in the woods. Given our location, there isn't a local bear or wolf population. This is a critical detail to the story. We meet to go running one night around 11:15, 11:30. I am not entirely sure of the exact time, but it was fairly late, and thunderstorms were on their way according to the weather app. For this reason, both of us left our phones in the car. The one time we have, and we've regretted it ever since, and decided to run pretty fast to make it back before the storm. In the woods, it's mostly a wood chip trail until it gets 200 meters from our turnaround spot, a water pumping station, as our town has had flooding problems recently, where it then turns to asphalt. We run to the turnaround spot and start running back, as this was about 1/4 mile from the wood chips to turnaround and back. I would estimate it takes about 2 to 3 minutes, given the slight stop at our turnaround spot. On our way back, we noticed what can only be described to this day as an upside-down trash can with a fuzzy, blurred outline in the middle of the path, right before it transitions into wood chips. If I had to guess, I would say about 3 to 4 feet tall, perhaps on the shorter side. Again, I need to stress that this was only 2 to 3 minutes after we had just passed this area and come back to the same exact spot. This thing had appeared in that short of time. We stopped running, as this was a rather peculiar and not there when we ran by it first, but continued walking closer. We thought maybe someone moved something in front of us as a prank, as the only people that frequent the woods other than us are, at that time, teenagers smoking and drinking. But they're loud and can be heard from very far away. This thing was dead silent, and we had continued to get closer until we were about 50 feet away, and it started to move. When I say move, it was standing still, but as it was swaying part of its body completely left and then completely right. We had seen a red glare on either side when it turned its head, like a lit end of a cigarette when someone inhales. Not a very bright glow, but enough to be seen in the pitch black, as there are no lights in this area. Talking between us, we began to become very uneasy, as this was unlike any person-animal behavior we had ever seen. This thing made no sound, and we were worried it was some dangerous animal, so we started backing up slowly and made a run for it. It didn't follow us, but stayed in place, moving in the same manner. We ran as fast as we could back to my car and drove approximately 20 to 30 minutes later as the storm started to come in. No rain, just lightning. Looking around, we found no trace of whatever, no broken branches in the woods, no footprints, nothing that would lead you to believe that a large creature in the woods visited us. Neither of us could explain it, and after failing to find an observation, we tucked it away. Fast forward to the end of December of that year. We were on another run, one of our first at night since that incident, and when we got to the pumping station, we found a disturbing sight. We discovered what appeared to be a dead deer leg lodged in a chain-link fence, pretty much completely picked clean with the exception of some skin and hair and the hoof at the bottom. The whole thing was pretty intact from thigh to hoof. Shortly after, I decided to bring a different friend to these woods who has the ability to see spirits. I have mentioned him on this board here before. That is the whole other story. To see if he could discover anything. As we walked by the spot, we saw the trash can. He was startled and focused towards the woods. I asked him what he saw without me telling him any other information prior to our arrival, besides having some sort of experiences here, described a cloaked figure around the same height as what I saw, with beady red eyes staring at us. He said once it noticed that he could see it, it ran away quickly into the woods. In the weeks after, my running friend was back out on the trail only to discover multiple other bones that we believed to be missing parts to the dead deer. He discovered a spinal column with the rib ends just lying in the grass next to the pavement by the woods. He carefully moved it to be with the other deer leg to keep track of them all in one place. 3 days later, in the same exact spot, he discovered what appeared to be the neck vertebrae, and then a few days after that, in the same exact spot, he discovered another bone, one which we don't know what part of body it came from. Here are some photos of these bones. These links to the photos will be in the description below. At first, we were thinking wild animal when we experienced this creature, but these other occurrences lead us to believe something paranormal is happening in these woods. Does anyone have any explanation for what may be happening? I can't find an answer, and I'm desperate for any info whatsoever. Edit. Thank you for all the responses thus far. I completely blanked out on adding this, as this happened a couple years before the first incident. There is also a forest across the creek as well, and me and a different friend were recording a video when we heard this odd scream in the background where we were viewing footage. We were both pretty startled, as we hadn't heard anything in real life. It was only picked up on the video. Here is a link to that video. It will be in the description below as well. Alright, guys, there you have it. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying an upside down trash can with eyes that are red. But, we just don't know what's out there. It could have been a hunched over cryptid. It could have been a dog man hunched over. It could have been a juvenile Sasquatch. It could have been a crawler. It could have been multiple things. That's why I'm bringing it to you, and I'm only doing it with just this one story. The pictures and video link will be in the description below. Before commenting, I urge you to check those out, and please comment back so this subscriber and Redditor can hopefully get some answers in what's in the woods around his home area. And with that, guys, I bid you farewell, and I will see you with some Ohio Dogman sightings tomorrow.